Hello, I'm Armando Roggio, Site Director for E-Commerce Developer. I want to welcome you to the Prolegomena. Prolegomena, you ask? What is that? Well, Prolegomena is a discussion of what comes before. And in this case, we're going to be talking about what comes before building a Magento theme line by line. This is part of a new series that we have on E-Commerce Developer, wherein we're going to work through the process of developing a Magento theme pretty much all the way from beginning to the end. We're working on a real site or for a real site. We're actually not going to show that site logo, but all the way through, we're going to show you what you need to do, what you need to be thinking about as you develop Magento themes. For this first video in the series, we're really talking about the things that are behind starting your theme. For example, the business objectives. What are you trying to accomplish as you create a theme? Are you building this theme for resale? Is it for a particular client? In the example theme that we're building, we're trying to do several things. We're trying to make sure that we integrate site badges. You see those here with the Trusty and the GeoTrust logos. We want to integrate site badges up high. We know from research that putting it up high, gives customers, shoppers, that feeling of security that you want. We want to integrate that into our design. We want to create some merchandising opportunities. You don't really see that here yet, but that's one of the things we're going to add. Want to encourage customer engagement, so we're going to be working with some social design patterns to make sure that we're doing things well. For example, you're going to see it says your account, not my account. That's a best practice. Your engages the customer better than the term my would, or at least some people believe that. We also want to make sure we stay on branding. It's a very sort of a natural, earthy brand. That's why we have the textures that you see here. There's the wood texture that gives this theme its name, pine, and then also we have this texture at the bottom, which is a fabric woven texture, actually very coarse too, which really works with the brand. And we want it to look professional. We're trying for something a little bit hipper, newer than what this particular site had been in the past. We're also going to be careful that as we build the site, that we're making it easy to I guess, degrade. So what I want to say is if a browser doesn't support a particular language or part of a language that we're using, we still want the client, whether that is a human customer or a search engine spider, to be able to get at the content well. Another thing we want to talk about is the graphic design. As you can see, I have a mock-up here, and I want to talk to you a little bit about how I arrived at this mock-up, what I did to get this far. Also want to point out that this is a work in progress. I know that some developers and designers really want to have all of the graphical elements locked down before they start to code at all. That's a good practice. I actually like to make the graphical elements more of a guide than a judge. So we may be making changes to this. For example, where I have the Trusty, Verified, and GeoTrust logos right now, not completely happy with that. Thinking about moving that up above where you see search, your account, shopping cart. So we may play with that in future articles and episodes associated with this series. Do want to talk a little bit about the design now, how I got it. First, I had to go get some inspiration, and one of the places that I get inspiration from is our site, E-Commerce Developer. If you come to E-Commerce Developer, you'll come to the bottom of the page. You'll notice that we have an article section called Design Techniques and Showcases. If you click on this, you're going to see the latest articles that are around showcases. And you can go and take a look at what sites are out there, get yourself some inspiration, fuel the ideas, if you will, that will help you develop and design your site. So I'd encourage you to do that. This is actually one of my favorites, 24 trend-setting t-shirt shops. Really liked a lot of these shirts, liked the feel that they had, loved the way that they used typography. So I'm going to definitely take some concepts and ideas from some of these sites as we're going. The next thing that I like to do when I'm working on a site is I like to think about the colors. You may see here with Pine, there's some pretty strong colors. I actually don't have the entire palette on page yet, but I will. I like to have a lot of colors in my designs, and where I like to start is actually this tool. This is Cooler. It's available from Adobe, kuler.adobe.com, Cooler. And this is the theme or the palette that I've created for the Magento theme that we're going to be building in this article series. You could actually come get it. The link is on the article page. You can also see the link right here if you want to go ahead and take a look at it. Let's look at it a little bit bigger. This red is really the key color. It's in the logo for the client that we're building this theme for ultimately, and it's one of the most important colors. There's also a blue that is in that client's palette. I wanted to use both of those. I really like this brown, especially with reds. This tan actually comes from the pine color that we saw on the site. It's one of the, I think it's one of the values right in this area. But I wanted to be able to replicate that, use it for some edging or some strokes throughout the site. And of course, I'm going to use white in addition to these colors. May use black as well. I sort of think of those as outside of the palette a little bit, but they're okay to use. I really love this green, want to integrate that as we go along. Now, the next thing I did was I needed to get some textures. I knew that I wanted some really rich textures, and I wanted to be able to use those throughout the site, so I went and got some. And where I found the textures that we're seeing here is actually this site. This is imageafter.com. And the reason that I ended up going to this site is right here. It has to do with the license and the terms. You're going to hear me talk a lot about copyright and licenses and having the right to use what you want. I am going to be redistributing this particular image. So I needed to have a right to do that. That is covered here, which is why I used it. And then I found this wood right here, and also this sort of a mesh, like these both, and wanted to use both of them in the design. Now, they're not exactly complete as they are. There's some more that has to happen before I could use them on the site. So let me show you a little bit of what I have there. You should be able to see these now. Obviously, I took the files, downloaded those files, and I got this wood texture. And what I ultimately did with it was to make it a seamless background or seamless image. So you'll notice right now, at least I hope you'll notice, that there's not a seam here. And if I come up and I offset this horizontally, like I've just done here, you shouldn't really be able to tell where that happened. I could change this around, move the offset around, and what should happen is it just should look like it keeps going around in a circle forever. And I want that because when we develop the site, obviously, I don't care how big the screen resolution is. I don't want somebody out there to have a monitor that's so big that my image runs out on the edges. So I had to create this as a seamless, basically a seamless horizontal image. I don't really care about the vertical space because I've got other things in the design that are covering that. In fact, you can see this is just an image right now. This isn't a site that we finished. That white line that you see right there is actually just from the way the browser is showing this picture. But I don't really have to worry about the vertical. I just need to worry about the horizontal, because it is possible that someone could have a monitor that could go on for a long, long time, and I ultimately want that background to be able to adapt to that, regardless of how big the monitor is. I also ended up creating, this isn't it, but I ended up creating a seamless version of this as well. This was really very easy to do. This just worked out well. I took this image, offset it like you saw. It lined up very nicely, put a little bit of color into it, and then used it in the layers as I was building. This is the actual PSD file. And what you can see here is that I created this layer that's right there. And it is seamless. In fact, we're kind of looking at the middle of the seam. Maybe if I turn off this, you can see that it does replicate, but it doesn't end. It doesn't just stop to be somewhere or have a line that looks really bad if someone's monitor is large. So those things, in terms of the graphic design, were things that I wanted to think about. I went out and got myself some images that I could use and still redistribute. I have myself the color palette, and I've already started to work in some of the business objectives into the graphic design. Now, another thing that we're doing in this opening article is talking about where to start. And what I mean by where to start is, now that I'm starting to get some graphics, do I just start to code the Magento site completely from scratch? And the truth is, I really wouldn't do that in most projects. Just like if I was having had a project that required some maps, I wouldn't start by writing some kind of a fantastic map application from scratch. Probably what I would do is use the Google Maps API and build on that. Likewise, if I had a campaign that required a content slider, I probably wouldn't immediately start to build a content slider from scratch in JavaScript. Instead, what I would probably do is try to find a plugin. And the same is really true for a Magento theme. There's actually a theme out there that I like. It's called the Modern Theme. I've used it before to develop a Magento theme from, and I think it's a good starting place that you can work from. I like it for a number of reasons. It is pretty robust. I actually think I have, here it is, the demo of it open. It works well. It has the basic shape, layout, if you will, that I want. And it's really simpler for me to take this existing theme and modify it to get the custom theme that I want. And I don't really have to worry about that because it is licensed under this academic free license. This license grants me a copyright license to do just about everything I need to with it. In fact, everything I need to with it, including to distribute it. So this is a very good license. It gives me a lot of latitude. I'm really thankful that the Magento core team posted this this particular theme because it's the starting place that we're going to use as we build the custom Pine theme in this series of articles and the associated videos. So again, Armando Roggio, the site director for e-commerce developer at ecommercedeveloper.com. What I've shown you so far is some of the considerations that happened before and as I'm starting to build a new Magento theme. Again, this is the first in a series of videos and articles around how to develop that theme line by line, and I hope you'll continue to watch those with us at e-commerce developer. Thanks very much. Hello, I'm Armando Roggio, Site Director for e-commerce developer, and you're watching Building a Magento Theme, Start to Finish, Part 2. Today we're going to be focusing on page planning, templates, HTML5, and all things that go along with that. This is Part 2 of a series of videos and articles that we've started. You can find Part 1, of course, by following links, or here as I show you on the developer site. Now, last time out, we sort of laid the foundation. We talked about the things that come first. So for example, our business objectives. We talked a little bit about graphic design, and I flashed the graphic design for you at the beginning of this video. We also talked about having a starting point, and what we mean by that is that we're not going to actually build this thing from nothing. We're going to start with the modern theme. It was developed by the core team at Magento. It's available to us under an academic free license. So we're going to start building from that and then use that nice foundation to go ahead then and build our Magento theme the way that we want it, making changes as we go along. Now in today's video, we're going to start making some of those changes. We're going to do a little bit more planning first, then make those changes. We'll also avoid a problem that we already have with some cookies, and I'll show you how to do that. But before I do that, can I ask a favor of you? E-commerce developer is just a little bit over a month old now. We're trying to promote ourselves. I'd love it if you would go out and follow us on Twitter. Our handle at Twitter is ecomdeveloper. Love it if you do that. We also have a Facebook page if you're a Facebook user, e-commerce developer page. Please become a fan. We'd appreciate it. And we have a YouTube channel. Only 2 videos up there so far, but we're going to be updating those as we go. You can find us on YouTube at e-commerce developer. That's our channel, YouTube/e-commerce developer. Excuse me, youtube.com/user/e-commerce developer. Sorry about that. But would appreciate it if you would take a look at us in those various sites, and would appreciate your support that way. The very first thing I'm going to do today is actually take a look at my Excel spreadsheet. Now, I like to start doing site projects, especially theme projects, by sort of counting out all the pages that I need to create. Now, a few of these pages, like the one I have sort of highlighted down here, these are going to be pages that will actually represent a whole bunch. So this is a template. We're going to use Magento's powerful content management system to fill this out. So that's why there's only one product category page, only one product detail page. But I still need to address those page templates in terms of the PHP, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and content, etc. But basically, I'm looking at about 25 different pages that I need to touch, make changes to in the modern theme to get my new theme called Pine. One of the key things for us today is this idea of a template. What we're going to be doing today specifically is making changes to the HTML template so that our document type is actually HTML5. I have in mind for Pine to use video quite a bit, and I want to be able to take advantage of easy video I guess, embedding in HTML5. We may not actually roll out with this because of support for it. We'll want to test in each browser as we go along to make sure that it works, but I do want to have the HTML5 functionality available, so that's why we're going to be making changes. In my template, by the way, or my Excel spreadsheet for keeping track of pages, there's a few things that I look at. Again, I mentioned the template, the status of all of these items, including some content. I'm building Pine for a real store, so I want to be able to check and make sure that the content is out there. If you're just building a theme that you're going to sell in a marketplace, you wouldn't necessarily need to do that. And the way this is going to work as we go along, when we finish something, I'll go ahead and I'll actually color in, and I don't know what I've chosen yet for the color, but I'll color in typically green for those things that are finished. So when that one's finished, we'll do that. If I'm having challenges in area, I'll mark it red. If I'm worried about something, particularly if it's a deliverable, say that comes from a client or someone else, and I'll mark that in yellow. And that's how I keep track of things in sort of this very primitive way. So with that done, the next thing we need to do is get this Magento theme. So we've got a little bit of a Magento build, or I guess an install. It's running right now on localhost. I need to get this theme that we're going to work with to start, but I've already got a little bit of a problem. So I just installed this, and what you're going to find is I'll come to the admin page, and I am the URL for this, by the way. Pull this down so you can see. The URL for this up here you can see is my local host. This theme, I call it Pine, so I've got a theme dev Pine, index PHP admin, and then the rest of that string. I'll move this back up. What you're going to see is that when I go to type in my login information, and I try to log in, waiting, nothing happens. Well, nothing happens because I'm already experiencing a challenge or an issue that you can have when you are working with Magento on a local host. That issue has to do with cookies. Magento wants to set session cookies, but browsers, they're not really friendly about letting local hosts have session cookies or place session cookies. So I need to go into a file and make a quick change, and then we'll be able to take care of this. So what I'm looking at now is the file hierarchy for this particular Magento install. And what I need to do is sort of navigate my way, and remember how to navigate my way. Let's see, I want, here we go, code, core, mage, where is core? Core. And what we're doing is we're working our way down, there it is, into this file, which is variant PHP. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and open this with Notepad++. So here I see that I have the variant PHP file, and I am going to work my way down to this right here. Hopefully you can see this pretty clearly. It says set session cookie params, and what I'm basically going to do is comment some of this out. So I'm going to take and get rid of this comma right there, and then I'm just going to go ahead and comment these out. I'm going to save it, and we'll go back to the back end of the site, or the login, and let's try this again. And we're just waiting. There we go. So it worked. So we have actually gone ahead, and I don't know what my little note is here. I'll have to look at that later. But we've gone ahead now. We've gotten into the back end. And what we want to do is go to the system. We want to go to Magento Connect Manager. I'm going to go back over here real quick, so I need to log in using the same credentials. So we'll log in, and I'm going to need to get an extension key. So I'm going to go over here and click Get Extension Key. You do need to be logged into the Magento site. Agree to the terms. You're going to get your little key. I'm going to copy it, make sure I got that copied. Come back over. I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. I said I probably don't need to talk through each of these steps. Now we're just going to do a little bit of waiting. Okay, so we're now back in the admin. We have installed our modern theme, and we can see that if we look at the file structure. So let me go back up here to the top. Here's app, design, front end, default, and we now have modern. I'm just going to copy that, paste it, and rename it. We're going to call it Pine because that is the name of our theme. So we'll call it Pine. We need to do the same thing for the theme folder that is under skin. So here I'm back at the front of the hierarchy, top of the hierarchy, skin, front end, default. You can see there's modern. I'm just going to copy that, paste it, and actually I'm going to change views too. I like the detail view better. Rename it to Pine. It's that easy. Now from here, what I want to do is go into the back end. I'm going to go System, configuration. Wait a little bit. Okay, default configuration. Want to go into design under the general section. You can see for packages it says default, and I want to leave this that way because if you go back to our hierarchy for a second, you'll notice that we are in default. Let me pull this down so you can see it a little better. We are in default, right? So this is skin front end default, and then it's within default that we have Pine. And the same is true for the templates and so forth under the apps. So we're going to leave default the way it is. We're going to go over here to packages, not packages, themes, and what we're going to do pretty much is put in Pine. Just Pine, 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 and we'll save this configuration. Give that a second to save. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is go back to the home page. Here's our home page. I'm going to hit the magic refresh button, cross our fingers that everything works there, and there it is. So now we've loaded the modern theme. We're calling it Pine, but it is still just the modern theme. But now we have something to work from that's a little bit closer to the shape that we're looking for. So for example, we know from our graphic design that we want to have our navigation sort of up here at the top of the page, and we want to have sort of a hero section in the center of the page. If we go now to the modern theme, we see that. Certainly going to do some modifications here, but the basic things that we need are now in place. It's a huge boost for us. So the next thing we want to do now that we have the theme loaded is we want to start making some changes to the theme. And what we're going to be doing specifically is changing the type of the document that we're dealing with. So if we were to view the page source for this page source, there we go. What we'd see at the top here is the document declaration right up here at the top, and it looks like we're using XHTML 1.0 strict. This is a good standard. I want to go to HTML5 though. I want to use HTML5, so we're going to go ahead and make those changes. Okay, I'm going to go back now to the admin panel where we were just working. I'll put those themes away for the moment, and I am going to go ahead and change the current configuration scope. This is important to the website that we're working on now. The feature that I'm going to show you isn't available if you're using default configuration. In fact, maybe I should just show you that. We're going to come down, we're going to go to Advanced under Developer, and if I go under this debug, you'll see it just says Profiler. There's nothing else there. If I change this to the website that we're working on, which in this case is the main website, in terms of my scope, debug now contains two things that I want. It contains a template path hints, so I'm going to set this to yes, and it contains add block names to hints. I'm going to set that to yes, save this configuration. Just wait a second. Okay, now what I'm going to do is come back to the home page and refresh, and what you're going to see is all of these little divs that tell me where to find things in Magento. And actually, it looks like a few of these showed up or didn't show up on screen, but we've got them here. Let's start with this top one right here. It says 2 columns right. Hopefully you can see that. PHTML. Now, if you remember from when I started the video today, I showed you this list of pages I'm going to work on, and I knew what template this was, so I'd already put it in. But this is where I would put this in. I would find at the top of the page the template that was calling it, and I can actually change which template is being used in the admin, but for now I'm not going to. And I find this template, put that in here. That's the template I'm going to be working with. If I encounter that template again as I go down, I know I've already adjusted it because I'm taking care of it right now. So we're going to need to find that template. So where does that template live in the Magento hierarchy? Well, if we come into our theme page here, and I want just make sure you can see that on the video. We're looking at template page 2 calls or 2 columns right PHTML. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into App, then Design, then Front End, then default, then pine, because that's where we're working. And then you'll notice that I have something called template right there. Pine template. It's in the default from the front end. If you sort of back out where we were, you'll see that that matches. Here's front end, default, default, pine, pine, template. Now I'm looking for page. It's right here. And inside of page, lo and behold, there is a 2-column left and a 2-column right. 2-column right is what I want to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open it in Notepad++. Just beautifully popped open for me. Now I'm going to do a little bit of trickery here. I'm going to take this one, I'm going to rename it to right old. Now I could just overwrite. It wouldn't make a difference if I just wanted to overwrite the file. But I like to hang on to it until I've tested the new page. That way I've got sort of a snapshot. It's easy to go back to. Now, my friends over here at Notepad++ are telling me that this file isn't there anymore. Do I want to keep it in the editor? I'm going to say yes. And then I'm going to go ahead and just save it as what it is. Save. Now, if I go back to the page, you'll see that I've got both. There's my new one that I just created. Here's the one that I saved as old. Okay, so what do I want to do in this file? Well, the first thing I really want to do in this file is deal with the document type. Let me adjust this a little. Sorry, I'm adjusting my window so that it fits a little better on the screen that you're seeing. Okay, so I need to change this document type. What do I want to change it to? Well, I want to work in HTML5. That's what I'm after here for some of the reasons I mentioned before for video. And HTML5 has a different way of declaring the document type. I'm just going to simply take all of this, delete it. Now I have an HTML5 doc type, just this doc type, HTML. It doesn't matter if it's uppercase or lowercase, so I could do doc type even in lowercase if I wanted to do that. Doesn't matter. You could do both in uppercase, and I've actually seen it both in uppercase a lot. I'm not sure why. A lot of folks who deal with HTML had been using lowercase everywhere, but with HTML5, seems to be the style, if you will, to go ahead and put that sort of big. Now, what I want to show you, and I think I have it here, this is the HTML5 draft standard. And I noticed when I was recording this video that it had today's date, which surprised me a little bit. I didn't think it was that updated. What I want to do, though, is work our way down, and I think it is in section 9. I hope it's in section 9, so maybe I'll just scroll down a little faster. But I'm pretty sure that it is in, I could be totally wrong here, taking us on a little bit of a trip. Oh, section 8. There it is, section 9, the doc type. How cool is that? So this is the doc type section. And let's see if they give us an example. They do. It's right there, doc type HTML, and case insensitive, which means that what I said was true. You could do pretty much anything that you wanted to in terms of whether or not it is uppercase, lowercase, camel case, any kind of case that you want to make it, you could do it. So that's the very first thing we did. We did that. I'm probably spending too much time on that. The next thing that I want to do then is adjust the HTML tag. So the opening HTML tag, you'll notice that it right now sort of has this extended stuff. Here's the namespace, which is fine. And then I've got this language here with an XML indicator in front of it so that it's telling you the language. It's important because Magento, one of its great tools is that it switches languages very easily. Has some CSV files help you translate. It's really cool stuff. But let's take a look, and I see how good I am. I think this is section 4. So I could be section 4. Could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh, section 4. So the HTML element. And what we're going to see in the HTML element is that we also, again, have a cleaner, shorter bit of code. We're just going to do this language indicator and then the language that we're working in. And Magento has a PHP a little bit of PHP written here that's going to sort of decide that language for me. I'm just going to change this over. I'm going to leave that PHP code in place. And so what I've got there now is an HTML5 document type. Now HTML, that tag will close the same way that it did in XHTML strict, which is what this was before. So I don't have to do anything else with that. This particular page is done. I'm just going to go ahead and save it. And so we've changed the document type of the page. Has anything broken? Let's reload. Cross our fingers. Nothing seems to be broken. Nothing seems to be broken, which is very, very good. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make use of some of the semantic sections that are available to us with HTML5. So in XHTML strict 1.0, which is what we were using, we would mark up sections with divs. But divs don't really tell you anything about the section that you're dealing with. They don't tell you what it does or what it is or what it means. And there is a way to do that in HTML5, and we're going to try that. So let's take a look. What we want to do is mark up the header section. And the header section for us is actually named header.phtml. It's right here. It includes the logo. There's also, and for some reason that's not showing up here, but there's also some navigation here. Maybe it's because I don't have it in the database. But when we go to do the site navigation, we're going to find that that's also in this header section. And what I mean by that is this navigation right here. It's going to be in that header section for us. So we're going to go ahead and look for this header phtml. We know how to read those template paths now, so we know that it is in page, but instead of being directly inside of page, it's inside of the folder HTML, which is right here. And then we have header, and we're just going to open that in Notepad++. So now we have our header file right here. I'm going to do what I did before. I'm going to rename this to header old, like so. Renamed it. When I open up the Notepad++, I get this error. Yes, I want to keep it in the editor. Oops. And then I'm just going to save it. And now there we have it. If we go back to our file structure, we should see that we have two header documents, the new and the old. So what does the header look like in HTML5? Now I've got to remember what section the header is in, and I'll be honest with you, I don't actually remember. Let's see, the section element, the header elements, it's in section 4. So now I'll remember that same section as the HTML tag. What we're doing here, and let's read what this is. Okay, so this element represents a group of introductory or navigational aids. So this is often it's going to have the H1 tags in it. We can see some examples of it. Let's see, this is some of the markup for it. They give you a few different examples of how header is used. Okay, we're going to use it right now in Magento. And what we're going to do is we're going to replace this div right here with header, just like that. And down here, we're going to end our header. Just like that. So now what we've done is we've really simply made this HTML, and we're simply passing more information. This is better semantic information. Before I just had a generic section of the page. Now I've identified that section as the header of the page. Ultimately, this is going to help me if I was working with some kind of a syndication tool so that the header is identified. So we're going to just save that. The next thing, and I'm going to try and speed this along a little bit, the next thing, if you were keen-eyed while you were looking at this, you notice that there is a footer. We're going to do the same thing with the footer. I'm going to open it up to edit here. And I'm going to rename it. Just like that. And you should be getting used to the drill by now. We've saved it. This one I'm going to do something a little bit different. Instead of just replacing this div, I'm actually going to add the footer So footer right there. Just going to go down here and close it. Just like that. We'll go ahead and save that. And now what we've done is we've basically changed all the stuff we were worried about on this page to HTML5. There's actually some section and article tags that we could use. Right here, for example, is the article element. If we go back, hopefully I can show you the section element. There it is right there. These are semantic ways of marking up the document. And on the home page, we would do that actually with the CMS part of Magento. So it would go in here, and when we do that, we will use those section-specific tags. Just going to real quickly turn this stuff off. Save that configuration. Refresh. And we have a functional theme. This is the modern theme as renamed Pine. But what we've been able to do so far is change that document type. So if we were to take a look at the page source now, we would see that we are dealing with HTML5. And if we work a little bit and scroll down, we can find our header. Right, that's semantic markup for this particular section. Still have generic markup on the page, which is great. We still use divs, but now we've actually got some semantic markup as well. Okay, not a lot of visible change to the site right now, but we're going to go ahead and stop the second video and article right here. Next time we will start to go ahead and actually code some of the CSS so that we get the look that we want for this homepage, and then we may actually do some JavaScript and code a sort of a content slider for the homepage content. Again, I'm Armando Roggio. I'm Site Director for E-commerce Developer. Thank you for watching, and please do stay tuned. In this episode, I'm going to make a tweak to my HTML, validate my HTML for HTML5. I'm also going to use the translate CSV file to change some labels, and I'm going to change a content block. Now again, this is the third video or third article in a series. First article dealt with those things that come before as you're planning your Magento theme. Second article, we did several things. We installed a modern theme from which to build on. Let's see, we also avoided some cookie issues, and we changed our document type to HTML5, and we're going to continue to work on that a little bit in this video. 4 favors to ask of you. E-commerce Developer is a relatively new site, and we are trying to grow, as all sites do. I'd encourage you to post comments. We got a lot of great emails about these Magento theme videos over the past couple of weeks. Would love it if you'd actually comment in the body of the article about those. Also, please follow us on Twitter. Our handle at Twitter is ecomdeveloper. We always post up new articles there. I hit that thing at least once a day with some new stuff. And we reciprocate on followers. So pretty much if you follow us and you're not a nutcase, we'll follow you, which is good. Also, you'll find us on Facebook. You can see the URL right up here at the top. And then we have a YouTube channel we're trying to get started. Would appreciate if you'd subscribe to that. I promise we'll be adding more to it over time. Okay, so let's get started. What do we need to do? Well, I changed my strategy a little bit from the last time we talked about how I want to manage the HTML5 on the page. And I'm changing that strategy because I found that there were some browser issues, particularly with some of the Internet Explorer browsers, and I was actually having some challenges here in Chrome, which is the browser you're looking at right now. So I wanted to address that, made a change, like I said. So what change did I make? Well, if we go into the structure and we go to App, Design, Front End, and don't worry, I'm putting this in the printed text, Default. Here we have our choices of our themes. We're taking Pine, that's the one we're creating. Template, go down to Page, and then to HTML. And let's take a look at, say, I'll take a look at the header. We'll open this with Notepad++. So here's the header. What I had done in the last video was I had replaced this div tag with this semantic header tag from HTML5. I found that if I just wrap a div with the header, I still get the advantage as we move forward in time of having this section semantically identified as the header without having a couple of issues that I did have. Now this was also something that I did on the footer, which is right here, footer PHTML. So now you'll see that I've got this footer and I've got the div wrapping it with a couple of divs inside. So that was a relatively minor change that I made. to the code that we had from last time. Another thing that I did is I just went and in the last video, I had made a change to the doc type. It's right here. For 2 columns right, actually, that's 2 columns left. Here's 2 columns right. I changed it to the HTML5 doc type, which is just what you see right here. And then this is the HTML tag now. It just sets the language. When I did it last time, I actually somehow copied this twice. So if you watched the video last time, it said lang equals PHP, and I had it in there twice. I corrected that to once, and I also propagated that across the other templates that I'm going to be using for the site. So there's a template called 1 column, PHTML, got it here, 3 column, and 2 column. And these all live actually in this page folder. You can see here there's 2 columns left, 3 columns. And what I did is I went through and identified all of those using the template path hints. So let me show you how that worked. I went to the back end of my Magento install to the configuration section. Oh, I have to log in again. I think I butchered the password. Let's try now. So configuration. And then in configuration, you go to developer, which is all the way down here at the bottom on the left-hand side. And I'm going to change the current configuration scope to the website I'm working on. When I do that, I get 2 more options here under debug. And for the moment, I actually only need the template path hints. I'm going to save that configuration, pop back over to the front side of the site, wait a second for things to load up, and voila, I have right there in front of me the template path. And the template path that I need to change the doc type in is this very top one. So here you see 2 column right. And what I did is I went through my entire list of pages and just found them all. So for example, if I went to the login page, I see that it's a 1 column PHTML. Just made sure that I had all of those done. So let's turn those hints back off for a moment and refresh. So that was the other change I made. Just want to make sure that all of my templates are happily running now with the HTML5 document type. Of course, now that I've switched over the document type for my HTML and for my Magento theme to HTML5, I need to make sure that I'm still valid. So I went over to html5.org, and there's a few things that you can do here, but I'm going to go ahead and link to this validator. Now, this validator is out there in the internet world. If I just grab the URL, and I'll show you that I'm just grabbing the URL here, but if I just grab that URL and I run it out to the validator like this, and I put it in there, and I go ahead and I validate, I'm going to get an error. It's connection refused. It's on the local host. It doesn't know what I'm talking about. So how do I get around that? Well, the way to get around it is to go back over here to the home page and just go ahead and view the page source. Let Chrome bring that up for me. I'm going to copy it all. So just copy all that, and I can even close it now. Oops, there's a preview of what we're going to be building, right? So come down now to Notepad, and I actually have a blank file that I'm calling test1. It's already ready to go. I'll just paste in and then save. Come back to this validator. I'm going to switch this to upload file. Oops, not upload file. Yeah, upload file. That's the one I want. There it is. It's test1 right there. So we're going to run it. Cross our fingers, seek validation, and we are not valid. Not valid in 2 areas, but that's okay. I actually expected this. The good news is this isn't really anything huge. We're just going to have to make some minor changes. So let's take a look at where we failed to validate. The beauty of this is it tells us which lines we're on. So let's go ahead and open this up. Line 122, it's an input. It's image. We have the source for it right there. And then we have value, sign me up. Let's take a quick look. What it says is attribute value not allowed on element input at this point. Okay, that's a problem. We'll have to take a look at that. Then we have a second error. It said required attributes are missing on element input. Another problem for us. So I happen to know what this is. I can see it, so I think I can fix it. If I didn't know exactly what was wrong, what I would do is I would go to the standard. So I think if we just back up here a little bit, there we go. I can find this HTML5 draft. Oh, they changed the web address. So I can find the draft. It's right here on WhatWig or WhatWG, and I can go into the draft and look around for the input tag, which, if memory serves, is in section 4. Section 4. Watch me be wrong. And now I'm just going to wander around aimlessly for a while. Here we go. The input element. It's right here, and I can go ahead and read through that to find out what's wrong. Just keep going back to compare to the the issues that I had when it didn't validate, which are right here, and figure out what's wrong. So first, I have to figure out why I can't have the value. What's wrong with that value? It's on the list. Here's the value that I can have. Well, the problem is that value doesn't apply when you're dealing with an image type, right? So if my type is image, I can't have a value. And instead, what I need is an alt tag. So let's just come right in here, go to line 122. We're going to change value to alt, like that. We'll save this. I will go back to the validator. I will ask it again to test that page. And voila, we have valid, or we are valid. There's a problem here, though. We haven't actually fixed the site. What we changed, where I changed the alt tag or the value tag to an alt tag, was in that copy of the page. So we have to go back in now and figure out where the error is in the actual code on the Magento Live, theme, and fix it so that we validate there as well. So let's go ahead and dig in and do that. So I could go back into the admin and turn on the template path hints again, but I almost know where this is already. So I'm going to go through a little bit of an exercise that I think helps you figure out the structure of Magento. So I know this is in my footer. I happen to have a footer PHTML open. We were using it before. If I come down here, I see this line of PHP right here. And it tells me that it's going to get this child HTML newsletter. Now, because I see that, I have a pretty good idea where that template is. But I'm going to show you kind of how my thought process works. So I'm not going to go directly to it, but just sort of show you how I would find it. So what I'll do is I will come back to the theme. I'm going to navigate to App, Design, Front End, Default, Pine, and not Template this time, but Layout. In Layout, I'm going to look for this file, newsletter XML, right here. And I'm going to open that file with Notepad++. So that just popped open. I'll come down, and what I'm going to find is this little block right here where I get the template path. This is how I can find the template path for that newsletter subscribe. And you see that it is template equals newsletter subscribe PHTML. Well, it turns out I know right where that is. So I can go back then to the site hierarchy. I'm going to go up one step to the Pine theme that we're working on. I'm going to go back to the template folder where we've worked before. In fact, here's the page folder that we've used a few times. Looks familiar, right? Right above it, newsletter folder. Open that up. I see this subscribe PHTML, which is exactly what I see here. And I'll go ahead and open that with Notepad++. Start to work my way through here. And what I'm looking for, you'll recall, is where I've got an input, a form input, that has a type set to image and a value attribute. There it is right there, as opposed to an alt attribute. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to alt. I will save this. So I've now made the change that's going to validate our site in the right spot. I'll come back here and I will refresh this page. Now, we're going to go ahead and check and see. Let's just go ahead and inspect the element here. And let's see, this is down in the footer right here. Work our way down. And here's our form. Here is the form set. Here it is right here, and you can see it now says alt. Now we actually got kind of lucky here. One of the things I'm going to point out to you, just so that you're not frustrated when you're doing this, if you're following these steps to validate the site and you still see value here, it may not be a problem. It just means that you need to wait a little bit, or that you need to change the cache management in Magento. I had actually disabled this earlier, way back, and I guess I didn't put it on the video, which is why we were probably okay. But let's just go to cache management. It's under System, Cache Management. If you just go to Disable like that, save your cache settings. What you're going to find then is that if you had an issue where that still said value when you looked at this page, that was probably the reason. But we have changed it. This page should now, validate just fine for HTML5. The next item on my to-do list for this video and article is to make a change to these labels right here. I want to change things from my account, my wish list, my cart to your account, your wish list, your cart, or just simply even to wish list and shopping cart. Now, I want to do that because of an article that I wrote a while back. If you went on to e-commerce developer, you'd find this article, a book review, Designing Social Interfaces, Helps Encourage User Interaction. It's a good book. I liked it very much. And one of the things I learned, I can probably find it here if I look in this, is that there is a marginal advantage to using a term your over the term my, if you want to engage customers, if you want them to really start to use your site and interact. It's a simple change in Magento, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. Now, I want to go onto the My Account page, and I'm going to log in. And the reason I want to go onto the My Account page is because it actually has a list of a lot of these labels, and I want to take care of them all at once. I have a test account. I almost always create one of these. I just use test at an email address that'll work as a catch-all box, and then a password. So when I log in, what you see is I've got pretty much all the labels I'm going to want to deal with right here on the left-hand side. I'll try and do this quickly because I see that we are running a little bit over time for the video, or I'm behind pace, I should say. So how do I make this change? Well, in Magento, these various labels are not controlled on this page. They're not controlled in the header section of the navigation because they're organized in what they are. So things like my cart probably has to do with your checkout stuff. My account's in a folder for customers, but I can take care of them all in the translation area of the site. So if I go back to app, to design, to front end, to default, and you should be getting really used to this path, to Pine, this time to locale, I'm going to find this English US, and I'd have more here if I had the site in French, German, Spanish, Russian, Chinese, Japanese, whatever. I'd have different folders here. And inside is this translate file. I'm going to just open it with, it'll probably work with Notepad++. I've never tried it in Notepad++, so this is a new experience. You can see I've got this one thing up at the top. I'm just going to put in here my account, comma, your account. I can't remember to save my life if I have to have that in quotes or not, but we'll just save this and see what happens. Let's come back to the home page or to this page and let's refresh. Waiting, connecting, change. So no quotes needed. So you can see that now this says your account, which is exactly the result that I was looking for. So let's see, the next one I want to change is my wish list to your wish list. So my wish list becomes your wish list. And I wonder if there's a way I can position this so you can see both on the screen, and then I can see both on the screen. Let's see, we want to take and change. I'm just going down. I'm just going to work my way down this list right here. Address book seems like it's okay. I'm going to make my orders into your orders. Or is it orders or order? So I need an S there. Okay. Then my product reviews becomes your product reviews. The next line, I'm going to have my tags. My tags becomes your tags. Newsletter subscription I'll leave alone. I just did wish list. Okay, so then my downloadable products becomes your downloadable products. So I think those are all the ones I need. I'm just going to save it. Put this away for the moment. Refresh the page. Cross our fingers. Hope that the cache manager is working. And we have got all of those done. We have your just about everywhere we want to see it now. It still says my cart on this label up to figure that one out. Let's figure out where that my cart is coming from, and that'll actually help us figure out some blocks. So let's do that next. Okay, so to find that block, I am going to go back into the backend. I'm going to go ahead and turn on template path hints and add block name hints. Go ahead and turn those on. Wait for that to save. Waiting. Okay, and then let's come over here and let's refresh, and we should see all sorts of red. And we do. And so we're going to see two things here on this my cart. One, the blue text, that's the block. So I know this is checkout, block, cart, sidebar. And then if I just move my mouse over, I'll see the template path, which is front end, default, pine template, checkout, cart, sidebar.html. So this is really easy because I got the map right to where I want to go right there. So let's open this up. We were last looking at the locale file, which is just one layer down from Pine. Our target over here is inside of Pine and then template. So I'm just going to pop up to Pine, template. Then I'm looking for checkout. So here's checkout. I'll open that up. I'm looking for cart next. And then something called sidebar, .html. I'm just going to open that with Notepad. And pull this over a little bit so you can maybe see it better. Make it even wider for you too. Okay, so as we go through this, this is that shopping cart sidebar, and I'm going to go ahead and try and find a place where it essentially says my cart. This is going to be one of those areas where someone had coded in here hard what it was going to be, and we're going to have to fix it. Do you see it there on the screen? It's up here. Okay, so it's actually right up here. It's in this H4 tag. It says my cart, and I'm just going to go ahead and switch it to your cart. I'll save that. I'll put this down. Let's refresh. And it says your cart. Now this is actually important for us because these are blocks. There are two kinds of blocks in Magento. You have layout blocks, which are the big chunks that are sort of putting things on the page, and then you have content blocks, which fill out things like your cart right here. If we wanted to make a change to what content blocks appear on a page, we could do that in a fashion similar to this. We could go into these template files, adjust which sidebars are appearing on the page, and then we can also alternatively adjust the sidebars as they go along. We may do some of that. For example, I'm not going to do it right this second, but I may want to put some other things on these sides, especially when we get to the point where we're adding products. But you can see you can adjust content blocks as easily as you adjusted other. Okay, so I'm going to actually end this video and article right here. In the next episode, we'll actually start to style the page, but I do want to remind you to come check back at e-commerce developer often. We update a couple times a day, and we'd love to have you reading our articles and commenting on those articles. Thanks very much for watching. And today the CSS work begins. But before we start, I do want to thank the folks at Magento. The Magento blog a couple of days ago had a nice little article. Smashing Magazine got a logo. Those guys, they're good stuff. But we also got a couple of links. E-commerce developer and building a Magento theme start to finish was mentioned there. So really appreciate the folks at Magento doing that. Also, I want to ask you, please follow us on Twitter. It's Ecom Developers, the handle over there. We'd appreciate it if you'd follow us. If you like these videos, just go over there and follow us. So over the past few weeks, we have been working on a theme. We've been doing a lot of sort of foundational stuff. Our Magento theme is not being built completely from scratch. We're building it on top of an existing theme that has some very wide open licenses that allow us to do that. It is the modern theme, which is what you're looking at right now. And so today we're really going to start to get into making changes to this theme. Now, we had a graphic design to start with, and I should probably show you that. Looks something like this. We're now in Photoshop. See a little my Photoshop toolbar there, but this is really what we're going for. And what I've started to do today is to cut the graphics into some pieces that we can use. I created this pretty large background. This is going to be the background at the top of the page, obviously. It is fairly wide, and it is seamless horizontally. So you can take this and repeat it over and over again on the x-axis without it having any bad seams or lines. I did that on purpose so that if we're dealing with some pretty large monitors, this background will continue to flow no matter how big you get. And it is already very large. It's actually quite big. It's about 1,600 pixels wide. Now, you have to make a choice here. I know for the Pine theme that I don't mind having a little bit of extra bandwidth burden for the background. As I've mentioned a few times in the videos and the articles, Pine is actually a theme we're going to use in a real store. I know from that store's analytics that most of the clientele are using pretty fast internet connections. The type of products that are being sold there, I guess, implies that. And so I can get away with a little bit heavier background, but you have to make your own choice. I also cut out the Pine theme. Now, obviously, this isn't going to be the store theme we're going to use on the finished site, but for the Pine theme, which we may also sell, this is what that logo is going to be. So I cut those out of my graphic design, and I'm going to start now by, I guess, bringing those over and putting them onto our site. So let me think about how I want to start this. I've got WAMP running. I guess I'm going to start with the background. So I'm going to need a few file folders open. This is my image file folder. It's got, as you can see, the background image. It actually has a product image. Don't worry about that yet. A couple versions of that logo, and then, of course, it's got the full graphic design there. And I've also got the file folder open for the theme we're building. This is the Pine development theme. And what I want to do is I want to navigate to skin. Actually, I'm going to change this view to details. Skin to front end, default. Here's our Pine theme. And then in here I want images. And this is the folder where all my images are stored. And what I'm going to do is just really simply, copy out these two images. Don't want to necessarily paste over anything. And click into some space there, paste. So now I've got my background image, and I'm going to go ahead and grab both of these. I should mention I have rearranged my little video studio, if you will. So bear with me if it seems like I can't find anything. That's because I move things around. And yeah, I'll replace that. So what we've just done there already, and maybe I should have waited for that, but I just replaced this logo. So the next time we load, we're going to see that. I was actually thinking that I would do that a little bit later, but I realized by moving those files over now, I just changed that. So we'll see that change the next time we refresh this page, but we're not going to deal with it just yet. It's going to throw off a couple of things, but again, I won't deal with it just yet. Now, I do want to mention I am using the modern theme to build from. One of the things that I like about this theme is that I like to start without a bunch of products in there. I didn't download any sample products when we downloaded Magento, which you could have done. I like to start with it empty. The modern theme, if I had products in here, it would actually put the categories up in this space, which means that it doesn't necessarily throw off the flow of the page. So I don't have to have products in order to lay out and design the home page. I will, obviously, if we want to go a little deeper, I'm going to have some products if I want to see what those product pages look like. But I don't have to do it here, which is one of the things that I like about it. Now, I've moved over my background image, actually moved over the logo a little bit faster than I thought I was going to. So let's refresh, and we see that the logo is there now, but I still need to call the proper background image. The reason for that is I've changed the file format. So what I'm going to do next is to, let's open the right one, not that one, is to come in, and actually before I navigate to it, let me show you how I'm going to know where it is. I'm using Firebug. This is Firebug. It is a great tool, extension for Firefox. And what I'm going to do, I actually knew where this was, so I was about to jump ahead of myself, but I'm not going to do that now. If I click on this body tag right here, what I'm going to see is the style over on this side of the page, and let me make sure that's showing up on your screen. And I can see that in reset CSS line 29, that's where this is being controlled. This is what I want to change. My background is a JPEG. It's not a GIF or GIF. So I need to change that in order for it to flow into the page. So I'm going to go ahead and do that by navigating to it. So it is all the way back. Let's get a skin. All the way back in the theme. Actually, I could have stayed in skin, sorry. Front end, default, Pine, CSS, right there. And I'm just going to open reset CSS with Notepad++. Okay, let me move this over so that you can see a little bit. And we were headed to line 29, it's right here, and I am just going to change this so that it's JPEG. Now, while I've got this open, I can see there's a couple other changes that I should be making while I am here. One of those is this color. This is the font color for the page, obviously. It's the font color that we're seeing right here. If you'll recall from an earlier video, I actually created a palette for the Pine theme. It is here on Cooler. And my screen's a little bit smaller than it should be, so you're not seeing this the full thing. But this is the theme on Cooler. Here's the URL. So far, you can see we're really focused on these colors. We do intend to use these as well. But I want the main text to be this brown color. So I am just going to grab that hex code right there. Again, I'm still getting used to how this is my new setup is laid out, so I had to put down some notes to grab that. Come back over to Notepad++, and I'm just going to change, if you can see that on screen, change the font color here. Oh, I just deleted it. So let me grab that again. Try pasting it in this time. There we go. So that should have changed our font color. At the moment, I don't see any other changes that I need to make right there. So let me save that. I'll pop back over to our home page and refresh. Okay, so we now have, and I'll turn this off for a second. We now have the background, and you can see that Pine's background is on a significantly different scale than we were looking at before. If I pull this up like so, you can see how much bigger this background is. Now, is it too big is the question. Well, I don't think it is. There's some data out there that says about the minimum height, top to bottom, of a monitor is about 768 pixels. If you are using one of the modern browsers, a skinny browser, if you will, like Firefox 3.6, which is what I'm running here, or if you're using Chrome, which is what I showed you our Twitter account in, you're not going to have any issue because this is about 720 pixels tall. That leaves you about 48 pixels for the height of the browser, if you will, in the viewable area. You guys are looking at it on a little bit smaller screen because I'm actually obviously recording just a portion of my screen. But in truth, this should put most of the important stuff above the fold on most screens. So it is roomy, but it is not so big that we're going to have any issues. Now, with the background image in place, though, we definitely need to move things around. We need to create some headroom, so to speak. So I'm going to make several adjustments to the margins around the header area. I'm going to do this, first of all, by figuring out what is causing my layout some difficulties, if you will, or where I need to change it. And again, I'm going to go ahead and use Firebug. So let me sort of shrink this down again so that you can see. And there's this great thing, layout, right here, and this tells me what I'm looking at in terms of margins, borders, etc. Now, the body has nothing associated with it. You can see that 0000. So I know that's not the tag that I want to deal with. I've got a no display here. This is sort of the accessibility stuff. So if you're with a screen reader, you can jump to those areas. But here, as I hover over this div container, I can see where the margin is. It's that yellow at the top of the screen that you can see right there. And also I can see it right here. So if I want to learn where that is, I can look here. Here it is, classes container. It's boxes CSS line 300. So what I'm going to do is pop back over to here. I will open boxes. Here it is. Come all the way down to line 300 for my next change. There it is. And just looking at this, I guess all I'm going to do here is change this top to 10 perhaps. So not a really big change, but what that's going to do is obviously move things a little bit closer to the top. So let me take a quick look. I like to check as I go. Okay, so that should have taken it down to 10. We are a little closer to the top. Everything moved up, which is kind of what I expected. I think next what I'm going to do is figure out how tall this div is. So I have this header div up here that you can see, and if I pull out, you can see it actually runs all this way. I want the header portion here to push down this body portion so that all of the background that's kind of the pine wood is in the header. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and figure out where that's being controlled. Here's my semantic header tag. I can see it right there. If I look at its style, let me pull this back in so you can see that. It's probably, well, I could do it there, but I am going to go in a little further. I'm going to use this div. So this is div header, or div with a class of header. And I am going to use this to set our height. I can see that it's in boxes. It's actually the very next line in boxes. So if I come here, we just did line 300. There it is right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to add a width. And I made this graphic, so I'm pretty sure how big I need to make it. I'm also going to add an important flag here. You know what? I'm not exactly sure if this is still true, but there was a time when you were setting width, excuse me, not width, height is what I need to set here. But when you were setting height on a div, that older browsers might ignore it unless you had the important flag on it. Okay, so set that height. Let's just go ahead and take a quick look at what we've done over here. Okay, so that's good. It actually moved everything down. It actually moved it down a little further than I thought it was going to be honest with you. I thought we were going to end up a little bit higher than that, but that's okay. It actually looks fine. So, okay, now we've got the head size that we need. We need to move some content around. As you can see in the modern theme that we were working with to start, these two areas, the search and these top links right here, are in the what I would call the main content section of the page. If we go back to the graphic design for a second, we're going to see that in the graphic design we actually have these up at the top. We've got fewer of them, and they're all the way up here at the top. Search is hidden. We'll get to more of that in later videos. So we need to resolve that. We need to move these things around. Now, I have a confession to make to you. I probably could have done some of this in some of the earlier videos. The way that I've built these themes, and I've built a number of the Magento themes, I find that I often make adjustments after I start to see the design layout. So a little bit of an apology to you here, because I know I'm going to have to go in and again adjust some of the template files that we've done or adjustments to already a couple times in the videos. Okay, so the file that we're going to want, this is our home page. This is a file template called 2-column write. So I'm going to get back into my folder structure. This is where I need to go back probably to, let's see, front end. There it is right there. So I'm going to need to go into the folder that says app, into design, into front end, into default, into pine, into template, into page, and I'm looking for 2-column write, which is right there. I'm going to open this up. Okay, so and actually I'm going to open one more file while I'm thinking about it. I'm going to go into HTML here, and I am going to open up header. So to move these around, and again, a little bit of foresight on my part, I would have caught this in an earlier video, but what I need to do is actually change the template so that what we're getting is those pieces of content in the header and not necessarily in the main content section of the page. So we're going to do that. What I'm going to do is, first of all, I guess identify where this is. So here's the head up here. Here's our body, okay? And what we're going to look for is where there it is right there. You can see this container, and we're pulling in the header right there. That's the line of PHP that gets this header PHTML file. And what we're going to do then is we're really going to expand this a little bit so that it has the content we need inside of it, or I guess around it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these two lines right here, and I am going to put them right here. I'll throw a little bit of extra white space in there, make it a little prettier for us, so that you can see what I'm doing. Then right here, I'm going to go ahead and put in the closing tags. And just because I am very, very careful, or at least I try to be very careful when I'm deleting and moving things from files, my habit is to do what I just did here, which is to copy it, especially if I'm just starting a project, to copy it and then go back and delete out what I changed. And I can see, looking at this file, there's something else that I'm going to want to delete here in just a minute. So let me take care of this first task. Okay, so now what I've done is I've moved the semantic part of the header into this folder. I've done that so that I don't have to rewrite any of the PHP. You could certainly do this the other way around. You could write some PHP, put it in those other files, but this just is, in my opinion, a little bit quicker. Allows me just to grab what I need and quickly place it where I need it and move on. Let's see, so what I want, I guess, first, I want the search first, I guess. I don't want breadcrumbs, I just want search. So what I'm going to do is copy this. I'm going to put it right up here. And the reason, again, that I'm putting search up top, this is something I'm looking forward to. We're going to do a sort of a neat implementation, I think, of search in the Pine theme using some JavaScript. But that comes in a later video. So I'm going to leave this div with the same name, but I'm going to take the breadcrumb out because I do want the breadcrumb in the main part of the page. I'll take search out of this. And I'm going to go ahead and rename this then to breadcrumb. Just help me remember that I did that so that when I go back, we'll have that. I'm save that so I don't go any further. Now, the next thing that I want on this, to move up, I guess, are those top links. So there we go. There, I'm just going to take all of this, go right up here, paste it in. And again, I'm adding some extra white space. You don't need this white space. Just prettifying it so that I can see it better. Make sure that I got what I need. And I'm just looking through here as I'm moving stuff around, and I can see some strong. Can I see that strong? I'm not a big fan of doing strong in my copy. I'd much rather take care of that with CSS. So, okay, so for the moment, just taking a look at what we got. Here's our top links. The store language, that's fine. That's if I was switching languages, and that can be up at the top. That's great. This one is going to give me the welcome message, which is that default welcome message. Right now it says default welcome message right here. And then here's actually where I'm getting the top links from. And let's see, I've already moved up the search. Now, I'm not actually ready for search to appear. Because I intend to use some JavaScript with search, we're going to handle that a little bit differently. I'm actually going to have it show up. I'm going to use JavaScript to turn it off if there's JavaScript loaded on the page, or turn it off meaning hide it, and then I'll make it expandable. But I don't want to worry about that in the flow of the document right now, so I'm just going to comment it out. For now, this will definitely be a part of the site. Search is an important part of navigation. I think it's maybe even the primary navigation for a lot of stores. I'm not going to change that, so we won't worry about that. But for now, we're just going to comment it out. I'm reading as I'm talking, by the way, and I think we're okay. Let's take a look at the site, see if anything breaks. Nope, that's exactly what we expected. So right now, we still have this in both places, it looks like, which I got to figure out. But that's exactly what we wanted. I guess I didn't delete this one yet, but right up at the top, it's above our logo. We're moving in the right direction. So let me go get rid of what's at the bottom there. Yep. So you probably saw that on screen. I copied it, which is what I said was my practice, but then I didn't go back and delete it. So deleting that, save it, and let's refresh. There we go. So that's exactly what we want. And actually, this heading thing worked out great. It actually came down a little further than I thought it was going to, but when I took those away, that's perfect. We have this where we want it. I know what I was going to change to. In the header, when I was looking at this, making the quick change, I saw this side logo promo. That's this part right here where it says free shipping. This is a nice touch if you want to put some kind of a message up there. We're going to actually do something similar. It won't be free shipping, and this is an area where the graphic design may be in some flux, but you can see it's our intention, and I'll zoom in, to put these trust labels somewhere up at the top. We may end up treating this, like I said, a little bit differently, but the plan is to have something like that. So I'm all for putting something like that into your design. So as I delete this, don't take that the wrong way. But what I am going to do is get rid of it. And let's see if we can figure out exactly what we need. I think it's just this line right here. So let me get rid of it. Let's save. Refresh. And you can see I do this a lot. Save and refresh. Boom, it's gone. Okay. So we are definitely making some progress on the theme, right? Okay, so we can see that the labels at the top of the header here need to be, well, I guess they need to be repositioned a little bit. They need to be restyled, certainly, and a couple of them I actually want to remove or need to remove. The ones in particular that I want to remove are checkout here and login. Now, why do I want to remove them? Well, right now, login and your account do the same thing. And I like the your account page. I like the idea of having customers go there. So I'm going to go ahead and use that as the way that you do it. And right now, my cart, which I still need to change, actually. It should say your cart. My cart and checkout, they do the same thing right now. So, boy, this was from last week. And you know what's funny about that? And I should have caught this. I think it was Dave commented on one of the articles that I hadn't changed my cart yet. So thank you, Dave, for that. But let me take, I guess, a little sidestep because I just noticed that error and fix it. So to do that, I need to hop back up into the theme. Let's see. Actually, I probably was closer here. Design, front end, default, Pine, locale. There we go. You remember this, I hope, from the last video, so I'm not really going through what you need to do. There, see, that's why actually I did it, but you see what I did? I had a capital Y, and it wasn't working for me. So let me just go ahead and check that. Oh, sweet. So that was fixed. So that wasn't on my plan for this video, but saw the error. So back to what I was planning to do, though. Again, I want to reposition, restyle, and remove a couple of these. Now, one of the things that can sometimes be challenging for folks in Magento is that it categorizes a lot of things by what they are or what they do, not where they might live on a page. So when you look at these links right here, you're thinking, oh, there's probably some file, some template file he's going to show me that has this nice little list of links, and I'll just remove the ones that I don't want. Well, it doesn't work that way. What you have to do is you have to locate where this link lives in an XML file and to make some changes in those files. Figuring out where these things live, there's a few different ways you can do it. You can get some clues by using the template path hints tool that we've used several times, which will show you where some of these things are. And then also, there is logic to it. So if you just say to yourself, hey, where would something like, checkout or login be listed? Where would that be? You'll probably think the right place, right? So for me, when I think about log in or log out, what I end up thinking about is who's doing it, who's doing the work. And the individual doing the work is the customer. So I'm going to think of a customer. I'll go to layout. I probably should have checked this ahead of time. So I'll go to layout. We'll open customer XML. Hopefully you can see that tag. And what I'm going to do is look for this right here. So what you see is a reference that says top.links. This tells me that this is putting a link into the list. Now what I see here is my account. Remember, we're translating my account into your account. Let me put that over there for a second. So this is putting in the my account, which we're translating into your account, tag label right here on the site. And as I go down a little bit, I find the first section that I'm looking to eliminate, which is this the section that says logged in and logged out, logged in, logged out, right there. Now what I'm going to do, I'm not going to delete these at all. I'm just going to grab and comment them both out. And the reason I'm going to comment them out is I don't want them on the Pine theme. But that doesn't mean that some customer or someone using the theme might not want them. These are pretty important things. A lot of people like them. So I'm just going to comment them out so that if someone buys this theme or wants to use this theme, they don't have to make a huge change. They can just go ahead and uncomment those, if you will. And those links will be right back. Let's see if I did my job. This login should disappear. And it's gone. You can see that, right? So now we just have checkout. Well, same procedure here. Where do you think checkout would be? That's a great question. Where do I think checkout would be? Well, it's in one called checkout. That was pretty easy. So let's open it up. And we're looking again. Here it is right here. So I see top links, and I've got a couple of actions here. So I need to be careful. I've got an add to cart link, which I definitely don't want to get rid of, and I've got an add checkout link, which I do. So again, I'm just going to use a comment. Let me save that, and I just want to double check to make sure that I didn't make the site blow up. Okay, I've got it. Now, I'll confess to you, I was going to change your wish list as well. In fact, if you look at the graphic design, you'll see that I'm not using it. Your wish list. But I had a change of heart. I decided, a wish list is something you should have up there in the navigation. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it. The default message, by the way, you can change that anytime you want in the admin section of the site. So for now, I'll just leave it that way, but I'm probably going to change that. If it was my own store, I would change it to something besides just a default welcome message, obviously. So I think the next thing to do is just to start to style. Oh, you know what is missing? Sorry, I was going to get into style, but I just realized there's something that is missing. We don't have our search up there yet. I need to add a search tag to this so that I can activate that, that sort of advanced search area that's going to open up at the top of the page for us eventually. So I need to go ahead and add that. Okay, add that. So to add that, well, let me take a step back. Truth be told, I could add that at any of these locations, any place where we've seen this this set of tags right here. And in fact, I'm going to steal that while I'm here, grab it. But I could add it here and it would work. But what I want to do is kind of follow the same thought processes that the folks who built Magento put into it. They have this great checkout XML where we've got our checkout stuff. We had customer. We saw it. So I'm going to try and find an appropriate XML file. Turns out there is one. It's catalog search. So let me open it up. And I just need to be anywhere within this layout section. And I'm going to paste back in what I borrowed from the other XML file. I think that was the checkout XML. And I'm just going to modify this for my purposes. I don't need this line at all. I guess I'll back that up a little. Okay. So let's see. I don't want. Let me figure out what I need to change here. So let me see. Top links. I got that. Okay. Actually, I don't need block. I don't think I need block. So let's get rid of that. And I want to do action. I just want to add a link. And then because I want to be able to control this, translate. I want to be able to control this for that same. So, and I'm trying to remember the syntax for this. There's probably a better one I could have copied. Translate label title. Label title. Pretty sure that's right. And module equals search. Then I need a label. And this is going to be search. Okay, what else do I need? I'm going to go ahead and need a URL. The URL is going to be get advanced search URL. Get advanced search URL. Pretty sure that is right. And in fact, see, I'm a dummy. I should just copy this from right here, and then I would know that I had it right. See it right there? I could have just copied it right there. Here I was, having a brain aneurysm trying to remember how to do this while I was talking to you on screen. I could have just taken it from right there. Let's make sure that's right. Catalog search. See, I probably had the module wrong. We want this to say search. Get advanced. Okay, that looks right to me. So let's save that and come back to the site and refresh. Cross your fingers. Oh, something didn't work. So let's figure out what it was. Top links, action add length, or add link. Oh. Okay. Let's go ahead and put a position on this. There we go. And 5. There's also something else missing here. And I'll be honest with you, I can't remember exactly what it was. So I'm just going to save this and look over at customer for a second. I think it's this right here. So let's put it right there. Save that. Now let's try. Still no love. So let's see if we can figure out where our code is going. All right, so I'm going to take the fast way out. I'm just going to grab this. Actually, I'll grab this one. And let's try that. And we're going to change this to search. If you could see, by the way, what I was doing wrong in that and tell me in the comments, that would be great. Because I still don't know what I typed wrong in that last version. But let's see. I don't want to count URL. Obviously, I want this URL. And the module needs to be catalog search. Okay, let's try that. This is number 3. Hopefully we don't strike out. Still no love. Oh. Okay, so I'm feeling pretty dumb. I turned the video off and I stared at this thing for about 15 minutes. And then I actually opened it up in an XML specific reader, which I actually have open still over here. Looked at it in XML, and as soon as I did that, I realized what I had forgotten. I needed to set this as part of the default so that it would be included in the default theme. Didn't do it. My mistake. All I need to do is wrap this in these default tags like that, and this should solve the problem for us. And there it is. So my mistake, should have remembered that I needed to put default around that in order to get that to work. Didn't remember it right away though. So that should be good. And this will actually take us to advanced search. As I said, later on, I'm going to add some functionality around this button. But for now we're okay there. Do need to style these now though. So I'm going to open Firebug up again. Get into the container, get into the header, get into this div, and then particularly right in here. And I can see that this is being styled at a class called top-links-bar. It's in the boxes file, which we already have open on line 322. And the beauty of this, as we're changing, adding lines, these numbers change also, so we don't have to worry about trying to keep track of that. So 300, oops, wrong file. Let's close a few of these so that I don't have to get into the wrong one. This is boxes 322. Here we go. So let's look over here for a second again. What do I need to change? Well, I know that I want to change the background color wherever it went to. So I can change the background color. I know that. I want to change some of the spacing, this padding at the top. So let's take a look at that. For the background, I think I'm just going to take it out. I'm just going to take the background out. I am going to change the color. This is going to be the red, right? So let's look at our theme. If you can see that up at the top of the page, try and zoom in. Red is the color we're looking for these. So let's make it red. And our red from the palette is, oh, that's not right. It is 9D. Let's take a quick look. That's why I keep the palette on cooler so I can always remember. 9D0000. So 9D0000. I really don't want, I don't think I want any padding, top or bottom. I might change my mind on that in a minute, but I don't think I want any padding, top or bottom. Couple of other things. Let's see. Go back up to our page. I know this needs to be in uppercase. So the theme graphic design has these in all uppercase. Right now they're in a mixed or standard case, so I need to do that. We can do that right here. The text transform uppercase. I think it's that way. Yep, there's uppercase. I also want it to be larger. So font size, I think 14 point. I actually think I did the graphic design in 18-point font, but I'm going to use 14 point here. Just because I think with so many things there, I want to do that. And then this is going to be a choice you'll have to make. And I may deal with this using some JavaScript later. Rockwell is not what you'd consider to be a completely web-safe font. It has some issues on some older systems, older browsers, but it is a relatively safe font. So you could probably do something like this and get away with it. But we could also deal with this using SVG or using Cipher or using some other things, and I may still do that later on in the build. But for now, I'm just going to set it to Rockwell. I know that works on my system. So I'm going to refresh, see where we are. Did I not save it? I didn't save it. Refresh. Okay, So we're almost there. We've got our default message over here. We have the categories that we want. And again, you're looking at this on the video on sort of a shrunk down version of the screen that is actually smaller than the standard monitor, so it looks like it goes edge to edge. You're probably going to see a lot more space on the left hand and right hand side of it when you actually have this up on a monitor. So I want to get rid of these pipes in between, and I want to make sure that I change my anchor text to the red as well. So let's go, and we can actually find that here. If we want to, we can figure out, I suspect it's going to be right nearby, and maybe I'm wrong as we're getting down into these. But it is, yeah, see, we're looking here for is top links bar, top links A, and it's on 329 of our file. We were at 322, so it is right here. And sweet, I can see a few different things here. So there's a hover color. So what I'm going to do, I'll start with this. I'm just going to add a color here. That's 9D, 1, 2, 3, 4. I want to change actually the hover color while I'm here, and I want to use, I'm going to use the brown that we had here. So let me copy that. Replace these with this. Let's see. Here's our background image right there, right? That was the spacer. The background image, I think, was the spacer. So let's save that. Forgot to save last time, didn't want to do it this time. Let's see what we get. Okay, that's much more in line with what we're looking for. You can see why originally I didn't have wishlist in there. This is pretty large font. I think it makes sense, and I'll leave it large for now in the context of this design. But certainly you can adjust that to suit your tastes. Obviously, I've shown you how to do it. Okay, so we've got our, what's next? I already put the logo in, which is actually the next item that was on my list. I guess one quick thing is I'll change this logo right now, actually. What you're looking at, and I saved 2 versions of the logo. What you're looking at is the GIF version of the logo. It's got a little bit of white around it, and it didn't really do a great job of the transparency for the letters in the logo here. What I'm going to say about this format is I don't really like it. It's not a format that I like. It was great when I started doing web design in 1991, but not so great 2010. Should be using a ping is what you should be using. But the file that's identified in the back end default is actually a GIF. And let me just go to the back end. I'm going to open it in a separate tab so that we can have both open at once. But it's actually specifying a GIF, and we could dig in there and get to the files necessary, but we'd end up having to send more files along with the theme in the end. So what I did is I just made 2 versions of it. Whenever I'm showing off the theme, I'm going to use the ping version, and then I'll put some instructions in there about how to replace the logo, because let's face it, the customers, the folks using the themes, they're not going to want this logo that I'm creating. They're going to want their own logo. So I'm just going to go to the back end, system configuration. We're waiting for my local host here. Design. Go to design. And this is, if you remember a little while back, this is where we specified that we were using the Pine theme. And if I go in here to header, I can reset this default to PNG. And while I'm here, I'm just going to make this Pine theme, and I'll change this to Howdy. So I'll save that configuration. We should see a much better looking image when we go back over to the home page, or the front end. Okay, so image we're looking at now, GIF version. Let's see what it looks like in a ping with alpha transparency. See, I like that a lot better. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I think that is a significant difference. That's why I made the 2 versions of the logo. Okay, so I have the 2 versions of the logo. I guess I want to I guess I want to go ahead and move this down next. So Firebug, I'm just going to identify where that logo is being described. So in header, here we go. Here's an H1. That is where that logo is being described right there. It says H1 ID logo. It's on in boxes, line 316. This is just in the same neighborhood we've been working in. And there it is, right there. So right now it just says float left. I'm going to go ahead and add, I guess, some padding to that. And I'm just going to add 100 pixels. Okay. Let's see where that puts us. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let me take a quick peek at the graphic design here. And I'm pretty sure that 100 pixels puts me in the right location. I'm just going to grab, see if I can drag this over here for you to see. You see that now, I hope? Yep. So if I just sort of hold my pointer on there, you're going to see a Y value. See the Y value right here. And I was guessing about 100, but it looks like I'm close. It's like 110, 112. You remember that we built in a 10 pixel margin at the top, so that the top of those were pushed down by 10 pixels. So 100 is probably about right. I might have gone 102. I try to stay away from things like hundreds and twos. And I also could have used, obviously, a more flexible fluid design here. I really worry more about that left to right than I do top to bottom, though, so I wasn't too concerned with it. We actually reached the end of what I wanted to cover in today's video. So we now have you know, a home page. It looks something like this. Let me zoom out real quick so you can get a better idea. And yes, I could be using the keyboard shortcut, but I'm not. So, you know what? Zooming out was really good because I just realized that I didn't do something here. You probably saw it all the way back at the beginning and have been, you know, yelling at the screen since. I need to fix that background. You see right now we're repeating. We only want to repeat in the X direction. So let's see, remind myself where that's being taken care of. It's on reset line 29. So here I thought I was all done, and I'm going to come in and make one more change. Reset line 29. Here, see, it says repeat. And we just want to repeat. Oh, is it X repeat or repeat X? Do you guys remember? Yes, it's repeat X. We just want to repeat X. So I'm glad I zoomed out to show that to you. Help me catch something I missed. There it goes. Now it's just white at the bottom, which is what we expect, because if we go back again to the graphic design and we zoom out so that you can see it, what we're eventually going to get to is this will probably be either some merchandising area or you know, maybe even I'll put some products right on the home page. I haven't exactly decided yet. But this is what we look like. This is the end of 4 videos. Next time we're going to go ahead and continue to work on the CSS for the home page. We actually have quite a bit to do. We're going to have to add some products now. I've gotten to the point where I must add some products, and I want to do that. You know, one of the things that's always challenging when you're adding products to a theme like this is that you have to make sure that you have permission to use those products. I didn't use, obviously, the Magento samples. I can grab a couple of photos from them, but you know, it'd be nice if I could find somebody who would let me use some product photos. If you guys know of a manufacturer that wouldn't mind having their product photos in my theme on an ongoing basis, not just for these videos, go ahead and let me know in the comments. Also, let me know if you have any more questions, and make sure that I'm covering the things you want us to cover. So next time, again, we'll focus on finishing out this page. We'll do some more layout on the bottom. We'll move down. When we add the products, there's going to be a list that shows up here of product categories. We're going to reposition that. We're going to put a home link on there. There's not a home link other than the logo right now. And you can see from the graphic design, I have this link that says Pine. That's really home. We're going to go ahead and figure out how to implement that, and then also adjust this content section right here and show you how to do that. Hope this video has been helpful to you. Please keep watching. Again, I'm Armando Roggio, site director for e-commerce developer.